Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may find yourself in the world. This is Daryl Fletcher, owner and operator of Sofa Ranch, and I'm so excited to once again have another awesome guest for this month of May, Mental Health Awareness Month. And we're actually just speaking to individuals and mental health professionals all over the globe, and also persons that are interactive or have interacted with Sofa Ranch. And today is no different. We actually have a gentleman that he's actually a volunteer here at Sofa Ranch, but he's also one of the mental health professional. He helps us with our Horses Healing the Hood initiative and get into those schools. So, man, I'm so excited to have none other than Richardson. Brother Richardson, how we doing today, man?
Doing good, bro. Daryl, how about yourself, my man?
Oh, it's a beautiful day, man. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I know we were having some scheduling issues, but we
Right.
finally got you able to get you on here. Tell us a little bit about the work you do with young men and why it's so important for young men to be involved in this mental health space.
Sure. I provide therapy and support services to boys between the ages of 13 and 17, primarily around the middle school age group, 13, 14. Assist them with interventions that help them to overcome some of the symptoms that come as a result of their mental health diagnosis, anxiety, some depression, other diagnoses in reference to their inability to function, if you will, in the classroom setting, in the community, and at home. So I've contract with the behavioral health organization. I also do this on my own, and about a year ago became affiliated with Sofa Ranch.
Well, man, that's awesome. And let me ask you this: why did you get involved in this particular area and field of study with young men?
Well, actually, I started out working with adults, running recovery programs, developing housing programs throughout Fulton County. Always had a passion to work with young men. Way back in my graduate school days, even had an idea of a mentoring program. And so the opportunity presented itself for me to interface with this organization. And this is pretty much how I got involved with young men. And, just my own personal feelings, is needed. Our young people, young men in particular, need supports.
Yeah, and I really appreciate that because a lot of people we run into a lot of mothers and a lot of parents, and there's always this thing, well, oh, I never knew that this type of program existed, or I never knew, I wish I would have known this earlier, and it's so important that we bring more awareness to these type of programs and these type of opportunities for young people, because many parents are out there struggling. Many parents are out there, just they don't know what to do with their child. Their child is just doing a bunch of things that would challenge them in the real world, because it's like it is as if um children think that rules should not exist.
Sure.
It is as if, they were like, well, I was talking to one of the students at Bear Creek, and he said, I like skipping class. No, he doesn't say I like skipping class. He just said, my thing is I skip class. And I'm like, why are you skipping class? Like, this teacher's stupid. I don't get along with the teacher. Now, at 13 years old, I can remember, you know, I don't think I felt like I knew everything, but I think these kids really feel like they know everything because of the rise of technology, because of the rise of social media. They are exposed to so much that they really actually feel, oh, I can do anything and everything because they have access to everything. But just because you have access does not mean that you are really you can actually handle what you have access to. And that's one of the reasons why I love horses, because it brings us back to those primary skills that many young men think they have, but really in actuality, when they're working with the horses, they actually find out, you know what, I don't have these skills, but we work them, and it's almost like going to the army where we break them down and just to build them back up. talk to us a little bit about some of the experiences that you've seen here around Sofa Ranch with some of the work you've done around here.
Well, first, I echo your sentiments, and I agree with everything that you just said. Sofa Ranch for me has been a diamond in the rough. I found Sofa Ranch just by I think I was, since you mentioned social media, I think I may have been perusing social media, perusing the internet, and came across Sofa Ranch. I've had an interest in horses for as long as I can remember. And so I saw an opportunity to volunteer, and was super excited around the fact that this is a African American run ranch. And so I started volunteering over a year ago. And through my relationship with you, of course, we've talked and we've shared ideas, and you introduced the concept of Horses Heal the Hood. And so my affiliation with the schools was like a natural bridge, if you will, to these services. And I've had a chance to bring some young men out to the ranch on a couple of occasions. As a matter of fact, my children have been to the ranch. But it's such a positive experience, and you remove these young men from the everyday norms that they are most familiar with and place them in an environment not very far from where they actually live. But it's a total different environment. It's rural in some a lot of aspects or respects, and you introduce them to something that they never knew about, or they
Yeah.
never had hands-on experience about.
What was the little fella that you brought out that
Tyree,
time?
Tyree,
Tyree.
and he's been asking me like every week, like, when we going back to the ranch? When we going back to the ranch? Yeah, Tyree. Yeah,
Tyree.
he's a perfect example.
Yeah, it was so interesting. He was like, "Man, where y'all gas station at, man? And it was so funny. He was like, because like when I was riding over here, I didn't see no gas station. I just saw nothing but woods. And I'm like, man, it's a gas station maybe a mile down that way, and a gas station
Exactly.
that way. And he, like I said, he really thinks he's far deep into the country, and
Exactly.
because he was talking about his grandfather. He was like, man, my granddaddy lived in the country, and I'm like, technically you live in the country too, but at the end of the day, you know, like you said, I like the environment that we have an opportunity to provide, because it's close enough to the city but far
Correct.
enough away from the hustle and bustle.
Exactly.
And that's one of the reasons why we wanted to stay in this area, because we wanted to be able to touch and have a tangible approach to the young people. For those of you who don't know, I'm just going to kind of like share, what the last 2 years have been like for Sofa Ranch. We started out in a leasing 12 acres of land in the South Fulton area of Atlanta, and we were very close to the city, maybe like 25 minutes away from the city. And we'd have people come in and out, and we would release these 12 acres, but we had access to a lot of public land. And then as the program and the business started to grow, we were like, oh my gosh, we need more land, we need more space. And we started looking for other places. And we went into a leasing agreement with a company, and it was for 183 acres. And we drew up plans for the 183 acres. And then 30 days within moving into that particular property, that particular owner changed their mind. They said, "Nope, we want you out of there." And so we had done work already. We had started clearing trees, and it was just a crazy situation. They gave us 10 days to move 12 horses and a business, and I was like, "This is ridiculous." And then from there, we moved to our family-owned property with bed and breakfast, and we ran operations out of there for a while. And then we once again entered into a contract with purchasing 70 acres of land, and then just things fell apart, and the bank was dragging their feet on funding the loan. Then the buyers not the buyers, but the sellers got weary, and so they canceled the contract. So then we had to move back to the family owned property of the bed and breakfast. And then we finally found where we are right now, situated in under 60 acres of land. And it just really lends itself to opportunity to forgive us. And I bring up all of that because this initially started because we wanted to serve a community. Now we had opportunities to go out further. I'm talking 2 hours away from Metro Atlanta for getting like 200 acres for less than $1 million. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that because I want to be. See, a lot of people think when they see our business that we're just about trail rides and people coming out recreationally, and that is what feeds our nonprofit. But at the same time, we want to be able to be in the area of where we're most needed. And in the South Fulton area and the Douglas County area, there's a tremendous need for young people of color specifically to experience the benefits of equine assisted learning, to experience the benefits of equine assisted learning and behavioral and therapy sessions so that they can have an opportunity to be exposed to something different. Traditional therapy many times does not always reach kids because it's just sitting down talking, and a lot of kids don't like always to talk. But with equine assisted activities and equine assisted therapy, we really get an opportunity to put things in motion and see things in action. And just like Brother Gary was just talking about Tariq, when Tariq was out there, I was building a little shed for our alpacas. And he wanted to pick up the tools and start working. He wanted to pick up the tools and start putting into action what he's seen. And many times in so many different situations with our young people, they are not seeing a lot, or they don't have access to a lot. And it's like Brother Gary said, Sofa Ranch wants to be that bridge between that lack of resources for mental health assistance or mental health awareness, and that place where people can come and just simply get what they need, no matter their age. And I know we're talking about young people, but no matter a person's age, whether you're young, old, rich, or poor, we want to be able to provide an environment where people can thrive through their mental health capacity with the use of horses. So, Gary, and in saying all of that,
Mhm.
that was kind of off the script, really. I got a question for you.
Sure.
When you're working with these young men, what are you seeing is the greatest need for these young men to have?
Excellent question. Hands-on involvement,
Mm,
attention. So many of as has been my experience, so many of these young brothers just need somebody to pay attention to them. You
mm,
know, um, I took a group of young brothers to an event on this past Saturday over on the campus of Clark Atlanta University,
mm-hmm,
and some of the same young brothers that you met, Tyree was one of them. Uh, they asked me, "Are we still in Atlanta?" I'm like, "Yeah,
mm,
we're in the heart of Atlanta. We're in the Atlanta University Center, the largest education center serving Black people in the world."
mm-hmm,
And this is right in your back door. So hands-on involvement, exposure. So many of these
mm.
young people have not been exposed to anything outside of what they see and know in everyday situations.
Yeah.
And Super Ranch has allowed the opportunity to provide a great level of exposure to these young men.
Yeah, and that exposure and that access, getting back to that access is very important because many people have no knowledge of the work we do.
Absolutely.
And not only from that standpoint, but they don't even know that this type of thing exists. I
Correct.
remember when we started, really broadcasting and advertising about equine assisted therapy and equine assisted work that we're doing. We were in some articles, and we were in Travel Noir, Black Enterprise News, NBC Black News. And I can remember talking to the journalists, and the journalists were asking me questions as if they never heard. And and actually all of the journalists that we spoke to were Black, and they were like, I've never heard of this.
Mhm.
And they were in such awe of the work that we do. And in being in such awe of the work that we do, they were like, man, I've never heard a horse being able to be used in therapy sessions. And that access and that exposure is so important. That's one of the reasons why we actually speaking now, because we have over 3,000 people on our social media platform in Facebook. We reach over 6,000 people on TikTok. We reach another close to 7,000 on Instagram. Now we're talking about roughly almost 15 to 20,000 people being made aware of something that they potentially could have never heard of.
Correct.
And so, and especially within our community, people, one of the first things that people come out, ask me when they come out here, they'll say, is this horse going to bite me?
Yeah.
Or is this horse going to kick me? Is this horse going to, and that just lends itself to the natural inclination of many people to be drawn to the negative.
Exactly.
That gives us a glimpse into how they view the world.
Mhm.
Most people have a negative filter of the world, and the world can be a challenging place. But at the same time, I believe it's how you show up and what you give off is important to play an important factor on what you actually get back.
Correct.
And so, with us providing that environment where people can actually understand how they show up in the world, it's so vital for them to understand. Oh, okay, this is how I'm showing up in the world. Let me change my direction, and that's what some of the work that we like try to do here at Sofa Ranch. So, with you working with all these young men, and you talked about access, and you talked about just some of the things that you're referring to the young men. Why are horses so important in playing a part to their healing process and their recovery?
Horses provide a sense of calm,
Mm,
assurance,
mhm,
strength.
mm,
Horses demonstrate leadership.
mm,
And so these are things that are lacking amongst our young men as I have seen it in my work with them.
mm,
Lack of confidence,
mhm,
the inability to take control of oneself and avoid conflict,
mm,
the inability to uh, um, take the stance to be different, not follow the norm. And so, as has been my experience with Super Ranch and the horses, again, Tyree is a perfect example. Someone who was his first introduction to the ranch, he was a bit apprehensive, quite
mhm,
naturally,
mhm,
somewhat scared and nervous, but in a matter of moments, at
mhm,
of course your direction with your leadership, with my coaching him, uh, he quickly overcame those fears, and it was so. I don't know if I had mentioned this to you, but I asked him after we rode the horses later that day. I said, "Hey, man, is this your first time riding a horse?" He was like, "Yeah, I've never ridden a horse." I'm like, "I can't tell." His
mm,
confidence was so through the roof in just a 2 hour, if you will, interaction with the ranch, with the horses, with you and your leadership. And
mhm,
so these horses provide that, in my opinion, that character building that
mhm.
these young brothers need in order to, be able to interact in their
And he actually got an opportunity to go out on a trail ride,
correct.
and I forgot about that part. But the thing about it was, which is so funny, like you said, he was very confident. Now, I would say that he's a confident young man anyway,
Sure.
um, and he is. But a lot of times we have young men between those ages, and even men in our age group, they have a false sense of vibrato. They
Yeah.
have this false sense of confidence. And meeting him, he's a little fella, and we made a little bet, and he was like, man, I'm 5'2". I'm like, man, you ain't no 5'2". No, he said he said he's some height, but I challenged him on his height, because for those of you who don't know, I'm 6'7", which is above average. And Gary, what you about, 6'3", 6'4"?
6'2". Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
6'2". So he's surrounded by these big tall men, and he's like, man, I'm tall, but he had all the swag and all the confidence of somebody who lived in South Atlanta.
Yeah.
And it was just. But when we saw him around the horses, firstly coming when he first came up, he was kind of intimidated, brushing him, and then after a while, he was just all in it. You know, and it's so important for us, when we're having these conversations and interacting with these young men, for us to bring that parallel of everyday life. Everyday life for some of these young men is challenging. Their home life is not always the best. Their school life is not always the best. But getting an opportunity to remove them from that, but then in that space, channeling information, shifting perspective, creating an environment where they can see something different, but at the same time making the comparison and the connection of their everyday life. If I'm able to show you how to handle, connect, and even control in some instances a 1,400-pound animal, there should be no issue for you to have an issue with a bully.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that's ultimately our goal, to help young men, to help those understand those skills, and move into that direction of, if I can do this over here, I can apply it over here in my life, in my everyday life, man. And that's so important for many, because it's those life skills that are shortening our children's life.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
is those life skills that they are, because, like I said, they have access to a whole bunch of information, but they're not taking advantage of the information that they should have, because guess what? Nobody's really showing them about those character building skills.
Absolutely.
Nobody's showing them how to be patient. I believe I told this story in a previous episode, but we had this young man in our after school program, and one of the gates on the lock, one of the locks on the gate was a unique lock, and you had to, do it a certain way to open up the gate. And that young man sat there for 7 minutes, because he's watching he's looking at the gate, and he couldn't figure it out. And he's looking back at me like I'm going to give him the answers. Like I'm going to give him the answers to the test. And and,
Right.
and that's kind of like the generation that we have now.
Absolutely.
Everybody just want to go to the back of the book, get the answers to the test so that they can just pass the test, but not knowing how to do what to do when there are no answers in the back of the test. So yes, I'll give you a good grade because you have the answers. But when you actually have to apply this information, you don't know what to do.
Exactly.
So he's and that particular week, the mantra for the week was, we find solutions, not excuses.
Yes.
We find solutions, not excuses. And he sat there for 7 minutes. He got on his knees. He played with the lock a little bit. He sat me, and he's still looking at me, because the reason why he was looking at me, because I can't say this for sure, but more than likely in his home life, what happens is when he gets stuck, somebody comes to the rescue for him.
Exactly.
But we were trying to cultivate the environment where, hey man, you got to figure this thing out, because it's important for your existence.
Exactly.
And so he was trying to get out the gate in order to take, some of the poop out to the poop pile. And he sat there and watched it, and he finally got it, and boom, he was able to open the gate. And he was like, "Thanks, Mr. Darrell." Now here's the thing: I didn't help him, but I helped him.
Right.
And that's what we have to begin to grasp with this mental health awareness piece of the work that we're doing with the horses. Many times we have to help people without actually giving them the understanding that we're helping them. And
Exactly.
that's one of the ways, and that's why we are set up the way we are set up. Everything is therapeutic, but not everything is therapy.
Exactly.
We are intentional about our approach. We're intentional about all the things that we do outside of the confines of therapeutic services. But everything that you experience when you come here at Sofa Ranch is in a therapeutic setting for someone to decompress, to exhale. Even when we go and get, you haven't been on a new trail ride, have you?
Yeah, we went that Saturday. Well, whichever one we went on, I don't know if it was the new one or if you have a newer
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah,
now.
yeah. I think did we stop to the creek?
No, we did not. We did not.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking. I don't think you went on to the you
Okay.
went to the new one. So at the new trail, there's this nice long babbling creek, right? And you can hear the creek just bubbling up, and it's such a beautiful thing to hear. And we give people an opportunity to have a moment of silence.
Absolutely.
And giving that moment of silence to many people are so powerful and so effective. For them, just I've had people just start crying at the creek
Yeah.
because they don't always get an opportunity to exhale.
Exactly.
There's sometimes so overwhelmed with pressure in their everyday life, they rarely have a moment with exhaling. And so that's even a part of the mental health that we provide, or mental health awareness that we provide, because a person can come in so scared, so anxious. We disarm them. Give them an opportunity to embrace the horse. They go out on this ride. They take pictures. They're in this wide open space. The wind is
Exactly.
blowing. The sun is out. We
Exactly.
stop to this creek, and they're like, "Oh my goodness!
Right.
I didn't
Right.
know. I didn't know all of this was going to happen." But
Exactly.
it's very intentional in that particular aspect. Go ahead, Gary.
And I was just going to say, what you said is key. Super Ranch is located in a therapeutic environment, but everything is not therapy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a place where you can, as you indicated earlier, you can exhale. It's a sanctuary. It's a sanctum, if you will. And
Mm-hmm.
something else you said about the young man that was fumbling with the lock. You didn't help him, but you helped him. Your presence, and that's what's missing with a lot of our young people. Nobody's present. Nobody's present just to be there to provide some level of assurance, some level of reassurance, some level of listen, I've got your back. If you fall, I'm here. And so
Mm-hmm.
this opportunity is so great. And I have told so many people about the work that's going on in Super Ranch, the work that we want to do with these young people, because it's a therapeutic environment. Everything is not therapy, but you can come there and be taken in by what Super Ranch has to offer. I
Yeah,
just wanted
man.
to say that, man.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man, because it's so important. Because, like I said, it's done intentionally. And I was talking to one of my contemporaries the other day. He also does trail riding, and he's a little bit closer to the city. And he said he asked me how much we were charging, and I told him, and he said, "Oh, I'm cheaper, and I got better customer service." And I said, and I just smiled because I know his style and whatever. And I was like, you might be cheaper, but I don't think your customer service is or even the service that you provide is doing, because it's like I said, we try to be very intentional. And once again, because here's the thing, I've participated in his services. He has never participated in my service, so he don't even know all of what we do. And think, like I said, I got him, but I'm not in competition with anybody. I'm only in competition with what I did last year.
Right.
And so it's important. And the reason why I bring that up is because we want to be able to provide that environment and that atmosphere where people are walking away with, I feel, and see, that's one of the intentional things that we do, because people will say, oh man, this is very therapeutic. And then we get an opportunity to introduce them into the equine assisted therapy side of things, versus just saying, hey, all right, you come here for a ride, give me your money and go. No, we want that moment of silence. We want that open space. We want to give them an education while they are there, so they can have that insight. We talk about the 3 C's: connection, comfort, and confidence, giving them the understanding that that's the process to really understand. Got to be connected with the horse, got to be comfortable with the horse, and then we build your confidence. And like I said, all of those things are very intentional for that particular experience, man. And so
Correct.
we're getting ready to get out of here in just a second, but I want you to, if you could just, if there was one thing that you could share with our audience about the mental health space and equine assisted activities, what would that one thing be?
Well, if you would allow me just for a second, Brother Darrell, to
Go ahead, man.
before I answer that question, you Super Ranch again is a diamond in the rough. It's a gem, and I think what sets you apart, what's been my experience, what sets you apart from maybe the gentleman that you're referring to, you're as you indicated, you're a 6'7" brother. Your height in itself can be somewhat intimidating, if you will. Uh, particularly for smaller stature people, right? But your presence is inviting. You follow me? Your
Yeah.
knowledge is impeccable, and you allow people the opportunity to come into the space and feel welcome. And Maya Angelou said it best: people will forget what you did often. They'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And
Yeah.
Super Ranch provides the opportunity to make people feel welcome,
Mm-hmm.
special, needed, and from there they can connect, they can feel confident, they can, enhance communication, whatnot. And so that's been my experience. I have not been connected to the ranch as much as I would have liked to be in the last couple of months, but that's going to change here shortly. I've got some other things that I'm wrapping up, but people need to understand that mental health challenges are real.
Mm-hmm.
Illnesses are real. Our people of color, suffer and have suffered with mental health illnesses and diagnoses for some time, but there are avenues of help, and Super Ranch provides one of those avenues to help people connect.
Man, that's awesome, man. I thank you so much for saying that. And that, like you said, we keep saying that that's one of the most important and vital parts to the work that we do. We want to be able to be that atmosphere. We want to be able to be that environment where people can come. Like I said, we're far enough away from the city, but we're still close. We're close enough to the city, but we're far away from the hustle and bustle.
Correct.
We're 35, 45 minutes away from downtown Atlanta. We're 35 minutes away from the airport. And I've had people that have seen me on TikTok, Instagram, all different forms of social media. We had a lady out here a couple of weeks ago. She was from Canada. She said she saw me on TikTok and she wanted to come. I have a volunteer, one of our volunteers. He comes from Orlando, Florida, like
Yeah.
once a month just to volunteer. I had some
Wow.
volunteers from North Carolina just to be. And here's the thing. I know, our ultimate goal is to put 10 ranches around the country like this, because I would talk to people in Ohio or Kentucky or North Carolina or Maryland and say, man, there's nothing like this where I live.
Correct.
And I'm like, yo, I'm trying to be where you live, in all honesty. So if there's a philanthropist that's listening out there that
Yay.
wants to be able to just, put their money into the right hands so that work can get done. Sofa Ranch, we're a 501c3 organization, and we'd love to be a part of your legacy of how you helped change the world through different activities. And that's not a shameless plug, but that's an accurate plug to our program and services that we provide, because it takes resources to do what we do, and we depend on the donations of our board and our board members and those people that they interact with. But at the end of the day, could you imagine what our world, our country could be like if we had 10 sofa ranches up and down the East Coast and even in the Midwest, to where we're impacting young people with equine assisted services, equine assisted uh, therapy and psychotherapy, to make a greater impact in their community.
Correct. Correct.
We can have more stories like Tyreek, that's building their
Exactly.
confidence and breaking down barriers. We have more stories like, what I told the story about the young man that we work with, Franklin.
Yeah.
All these young men and even young ladies getting the opportunity to be exposed to the benefits of equine assisted therapy, it would be a tremendous impact in our community. So once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're getting ready to get out of here. If you want to learn more information about Sofa Ranch, you can go over to sofaranch.com, click on the contact us button. There's also a link over there that you can hit give. We are in the midst of our 30 for 30 program, where you give $30, and then once you give $30, you get 30 of your friends to give $30, and then you can come experience the services here at Sofa Ranch for a year for free. So once a month, you'll come get an activity. It could be trail riding, could be therapy, could be a lesson, whatever it is. You get $30, and then you get 30 friends to give $30. You have an opportunity to impact the life of someone, and all that money goes to improving our facilities, our after school program, providing scholarships for young men and young women to come here after school, and then also our summer camp that we do every year. So Gerry, once again, thank you so much for your time, and we are out.